All right, Buffalo Bills fans, welcome to this episode of The Walkthrough. I am your host, Anthony Marino, proud to be here with you as part of the Overreaction Sports Network. Of course, each and every week, we are brought to you by our friends at FanDuel and ready to talk everything Buffalo Bills as we get ready for Sunday's matchup with the Cincinnati Bengals at Highmark Stadium. One that definitely fans have got their eye on for some time. Joe Burrow back playing quarterback for the Bengals, and we'll kind of get into some of that coming up in just a bit. As you know, each and every week, our show is brought to you by our friends at FanDuel, and let's take a look at the latest lines for this upcoming matchup. Currently, the Bills are a 5.5-point favorite with the over-under set at 53.5 points. So listen, the Buffalo Bills sitting at 8-4, Cincinnati Bengals at 4-8. Obviously, for the Bengals, with Joe Burrow back, makes them a much more dangerous team than maybe they were with Joe Flacco playing quarterback for them. And when you see that 53.5 point over under for the Bills and Bengals on Sunday, of course, this is expected to be a shootout and would expect nothing less. So listen, as we get into the show, some of the things that I'm certainly looking forward to with this game, but each and every week, you know, we start with the injury report. Kind of that final injury report comes out on Friday afternoon. So recording this on Saturday morning, give some time to kind of take a look at things, and I'll walk through some of this with you as part of the walkthrough each and every week as we get you ready for game day. So let's take a look at things right now. No surprise, unfortunately, linebacker Terrell Bernard with the elbow injury. He did not practice at all this week. He has already been ruled out for the game. One other member of the Buffalo Bills has also been ruled out. That is defensive end Joey Bosa, with his hamstring, his wrist also listed. He had been playing through the wrist injury, but when he went down towards the end of the game with the Steelers, he did not practice all week. He has been listed as out, and at least in Sean McDermott's press conference, he is listing him as week to week. We will see what that means, but as of the time of recording, no one has been placed on injured reserve from this list, so we'll kind of see what happens there. Right tackle, Spencer Brown, with his shoulder. We all know that he was kind of playing through it for the majority of the second half with the Steelers before coming out. Probably should have come out, not against the Steelers. Sorry about that. Listen, you go through this week to week. Sometimes you're thinking about that last game or the one before. He missed the game against the Steelers with the shoulder injury, limited in practice all 3 days this week. He is listed as questionable. Certainly we'll see what takes place there. I'm going to be curious to see what happens with him. He suffered that injury against the Texans on Thursday Night Football. So right now he's had a couple of weeks to kind of recover, but still listed as limited. We'll be curious to see if he is able to go. Good news, Deion Dawkins, starting left tackle, out of the concussion protocol, right? He was limited in practice on Wednesday and Thursday. At least for me, that was a positive sign, thinking he is going to play. On Friday, he was a full participant. No game day status designation, so he is full go, ready to go for Sunday. One that had fans definitely a bit nervous on Thursday, AJ Epinesa did not practice with a foot injury, right? He was not injured or any designation on Wednesday's practice. All of a sudden, Thursday, he's standing there in street clothes. Put that aside. He was a full participant on Friday. No game day status for him. Reed Ferguson and Reggie Gilliam and Jackson Hawes were all on the injury report this week. Ferguson with a neck, Gilliam with a knee, Hawes with the back, but they were full participants each and every day, so nothing to see there. I mean, it's fine that they were put on the injury report, but no game status for them. One that certainly, leaves a lot of questions for fans, Dalton Kincaid, still dealing with that hamstring injury. And now there is a knee that is listed, and we've kind of seen some images of him wearing a knee brace. So Dalton Kincaid, he was limited in practice each and every day this week. He is listed as questionable. I don't really know what to expect there, and we will get to that in just a little bit. Next up, Joshua Palmer. And, some troubling comments from Sean McDermott earlier this week when he talked about Palmer and him just really struggling to get healthy. And for him, he did not practice at all this week. He is listed as doubtful. But I mean, come on, let's call this what it is. He did not practice all week. He is still coming back from this. I would be absolutely shocked if he played. And with that doubtful game status tag, like, you might as well have just listed Joshua Palmer is out for this game. Final and nothing to see here because he was a full participant in practice each and every day this week. TJ Sanders with a wrist also on the injury report. So each and every week as I go through this list is just, at least 10 players deep. It feels like every time we go through the injury report this week, nothing different, and a big matchup with the Cincinnati Bengals. And we'll just kind of see who is going to be active, who gets the call up from the practice squad. That is something we will keep an eye on as we get ready for kickoff at 1 p.m. on Sunday. Interesting. This was a game that was actually flexed down, right? It was originally going to be a 4:25 p.m. kickoff, and now it was moved to 1 p.m. So I'm sure for a lot of fans, listen, the 1 p.m. kickoff when you are going to the game, that is something that is much more convenient. So just everybody should know that at this point. But for some reason, if you don't, now I'm kind of filling you in. So listen, there's a few things I want to talk to you about with this game that I certainly have an eye on. But before we get to that, we need to talk to you about our friends at Anchor Bar, always supporting the Overreaction Sports Network and what we do here at the walkthrough. And the Anchor Bar, it's the home of the original Buffalo chicken wing. It's a place that you can watch the Buffalo Bills. You can really watch all your favorite sports, right? College basketball season in full swing. You can check out other NFL games, NBA, whatever you want to watch. Anchor Bar is your spot. Make sure you go to anchorbar.com to see all the locations and get info so you can order online. Anchor Bar, their wings, they're fresh. They're never frozen. Jumbo, high-quality wings, deep fried and sauced just as you like them. 24 different varieties for you to choose from. And for some reason, if you're going to Anchor Bar and you're not feeling like wings, listen, there's plenty of other things you can choose from as well. Appetizers, boneless wings, tenders, pizza, beef on wick, sandwiches, burgers, kind of you name it, they've got it there. So, right now they've got 16 locations. They're expanding to Tucson, Arizona, Frisco, Texas, Raleigh, North Carolina. And of course, I hope they will be coming here to Albany, New York sometime soon. I got to put that plug in each and every week because there is a need for a location, an Anchor Bar location here in the 518. So thank you to everybody at Anchor Bar. And of course, thank you to everybody at FanDuel for the support each and every week. So let's talk about some of the things that I am looking at when it comes to this game. And it really starts with the defensive line. And I say that because, each and every week, it's like, are we seeing the good side of the defense, the bad, everything in between? Certainly the game against the Texans, which I'm so over talking about at this point. The second half, they really kind of buckle down, get things going. A great showing against the Pittsburgh Steelers. Christian Benford, AFC Defensive Player of the Week, well-deserved for him. But now you're going against the Cincinnati Bengals, right? This is a different type of offense. Let's assume that T. Higgins is going to be cleared to play. You kind of Jamar Chase and Joe Burrow back at quarterback, and what this team can do with those wide receivers, you have to think to yourself, okay, the defensive line is going to have to provide pressure on Burrow to make things a little bit uncomfortable and get to him early and often on Sunday. And I say early and often where sometimes you're thinking to yourself, over these last 4 days, those are things that the defensive line has not done in applying pressure to the quarterback. And now we talk about Joey Bosa being out, and what is that going to look like? Certainly 24 hours ago, until I saw that A.J. Epinesa was going to be okay, a full practice participant, it's like, okay, that makes me feel better because, if it was just Greg Rousseau out there and Javon Solomon, right, like what we're going to be looking at, what practice squad call-up were you going to see? I mean, is Shaq Lawson going to be ready to play after, being at home throughout training camp in the first dozen weeks of the season? You talk about Morgan Fox, what he might be able to bring, and maybe some optimism there. But again, a guy that was signed off the street. So, it is going to be a lot of Greg Rousseau and a lot of AJ Epinesa. Those guys are probably going to have to play north of 75% of the snaps each on Sunday without Joey Bosa. And then again, where can some other guys fill in? We talked about TJ Sanders on the injury report. I mean, gosh, I hate seeing him play defensive end because, you trade up to the 41st pick to get somebody at defensive tackle. Like, let's give him the reps at defensive tackle so this young guy can get the needed experience that he can. But, he's been playing a dozen or so snaps each and every week. at defensive end, and that's something that we might have to see on Sunday as well. So without Joey Bosa, that gives me reason to pause. What types of blitz packages might the Bills, utilize to give some different looks? But that is something to definitely keep an eye on, and I'm sure that you will too. As I mentioned before, you talk about Joey Bosa being week to week. You knew he wasn't going to play this week. Even from my standpoint, it's like, listen, don't rush him back. And I know so many fans, and not to get ahead of ourselves, talking about the New England Patriots coming up next weekend, but it's a little bit like, to me, I'm not worried about the AFC East right now. I'm worried about getting to the playoffs, which the Bills are in a good position right now to do, kind of like 90% odds that they will make the playoffs, even as a wild card. And you're going to need to be as healthy as possible. And this is a team that has not been healthy throughout this season. So let's see if that can happen with Joey Bosa and where he ends up. Speaking of not being healthy, Dalton Kincaid, and kind of the same thing here, right? Like, if you've got to take some additional time to get him right, I think that is something that is certainly critical for the Buffalo Bills. Now, the Bengals are by far the worst defensive team in football when it comes to defending the tight end. By far, right? In every metric, they are in like the bottom two, and sometimes by like a country mile, they are in the bottom two. I mean, they give up an additional 250 plus yards to tight ends on the season over the 31st worst team in the league. So, as I look at this, a healthy Dalton Kincaid would be great. I don't know what to expect. My gut tells me he is not going to play on Sunday. I hope that is not the case, even if he can kind of work his way back and, let's say, play a few different packages and some third and long type of situations. Hopefully there aren't too many third and long situations, but right in some passing down scenarios where maybe he can get back on the field and start to work his way back. But it's been really interesting when it comes to Kincaid because, again, it's like, here's a guy, the team is going to have to make a decision when it comes to his fifth-year option during this offseason. And I don't know where things are going to go, right? Very promising rookie season. Last year, battling through injuries, not going the way you needed to. And this year's been up and down. I mean, certainly I've seen some flashes where you're like, this is the guy that was a first-round draft pick for the Bills. And sometimes, listen, the injuries are, outside of your control. And here we are once again when it comes to things with Dalton Kincaid, wondering if he will be able to play. Now, I say that, and you can look at it, and it's like, all right, with the struggles that the Bengals have had, it's not like Dawson Knox is not a capable pass catcher. Maybe if Kincaid can't go, this ends up being a game where Knox really is the guy making a difference for the team and, can be a valuable pass catcher and a dangerous weapon for the Buffalo Bills on Sunday against the Cincinnati Bengals. Now, you look at these two things, you talk about the pass game. I know we talk about Joe Brady all the time in the offense, and it's like, what is this going to be for the Bills? I mean, they could run the ball so effectively against the Steelers last week. Great, right? That was something that worked for them, and that was fantastic, and they were able to establish the run and kind of cruise in the second half to a relatively comfortable victory, thanks to some great work from the defense early in the second half to kind of get them the lead, and then they kind of never looked back. Think to the game before, against the Houston Texans, the Buffalo Bills probably could have run the ball a little bit more in that situation. The Bengals do not have a good defense at this point, right? And we talked before about the FanDuel lines and the over-under being at 53.5. This very well may be a shootout. And when you talk about that, I am curious what Joe Brady and to a lesser extent Sean McDermott, how they might embrace that. And I think sometimes we've seen in situations where you play a high-powered offense and they're doing well, the Bills look to maybe run the ball a little bit more than they should because they're trying to give their defense a break, right? Have some of these long, prolonged drives. And it's like, okay, I get it. That's fine. Then in other situations, and I'm thinking more back to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers game just a few weeks ago, you end up going against a high-powered offense in that type of a scenario that's dangerous with Baker Mayfield at quarterback and the weapons that they have. And it's just like, we're going to kind of match you one for one. And I do think, and I realize this is the fan in me, right? Like, so just kind of hear me out with this. But, when we see Josh Allen play against the top quarterbacks in the NFL, Patrick Mahomes, Lamar Jackson, Baker Mayfield so far this year, that's when you've seen the best version of the Bills offense and the best version of Josh Allen. And with him going up against Joe Burrow on Sunday, and I say going up against, right? It's a quarterback league. Like, that is the matchup. They're not. But anyway, when he is going up against the Bengals, I have a feeling that we are going to see some version of that top tier Josh. And not saying that it's like, that he's not playing to his potential in these other matchups. But when you look at this in those games against the top QBs, he tends to step up. And I think when it comes to Burrow, that's going to be an opportunity. So for the Bills, I'm not saying abandon the run. I'm not saying this and that, but, I don't want this to be one of those games where it's like, oh, if the Bengals, go down, march down the field and score a touchdown, that the Bills kind of like look to tighten things up and shorten the game and establish the run and just get, have Josh throwing 90% of his passes like 1 yard from the line of scrimmage. The Bills can go toe to toe, especially against this Bengals defense, right? So I've said this before, but like, let Josh be Josh. If it's something where it's going to become a little bit of a shootout, yeah, embrace it. Like, make them stop you. Don't put this in a situation where you've got this prolonged drive and you're looking to milk clock and do all these different things. Like, make them beat you. Your defense is going to be okay enough. What you've done against the pass, the immersion of Cole Bishop and what he's been able to do, Maxwell Harrison and his promise, Tre'Davious White playing well, Christian Benford looking great these last few weeks. Like, let your defense do what is necessary. If they get beat on a drive or two, they get beat on a drive or two. And let your offense embrace who they are, utilize the weapons that you have, and see what takes place. And I'm curious to see how they use Brandon Cooks this week, right? With Joshua Palmer likely out with the doubtful status, I think you're going to see some increased snaps when it comes to Brandon Cooks, and let's see what he can bring to the Buffalo Bills offense. The last thing I do want to talk to you guys about a little bit, and it's like this stigma around the Cincinnati Bengals. And it was last year with the playoffs, like, oh, I just hope the Bengals don't get in. You don't want to be matched up against the Bengals. Okay, that part is fine. I mean, listen, Joe Burrow, a fantastic quarterback. Like, don't get me wrong in any way, shape, or form. But I feel like there's just been this like black cloud since January 22 around the Bengals. And it's like, listen, yeah, a disappointing loss in the playoffs at home. You think back to that season, the Damar Hamlin season, and I say it all the time, like, that team was gassed once they got to that point. They barely get by the Miami Dolphins in the playoffs the weekend before with their backup quarterback, Skylar Thompson. They're running on fumes, and they put up a stinker at home against the Cincinnati Bengals. I get it. That day sucked. It was a horrible game. It was a horrible showing. There's nothing from the team that I thought went well, anyone that I thought played well that entire game. But I mean, that was like almost 4 years ago. Like, that was a different Bengals team. This is a different Bills team. I'm not saying they're not talented. I'm not saying I expect this or that or anything, but it just seems like there's kind of been this aura around the Bengals for almost 4 years now. And it's, you've played one other time since then, the following season in the regular season. And like, yes, the Bills lost. But, when you look at the number of seasons that it's been, the number of games, how things change, listen, if we're going up against the Chiefs in the playoffs and there's an aura around that, yeah, I get it. That is well-deserved based on what's happened the last 5 times these two teams have played in the playoffs. But for the Bengals, like, come on, like, it's 4 years ago in the playoffs. And they're dangerous. And yeah, Jamar Chase and T. Higgins and everything that they got, like, they can put up points. And if the Bengals win on Sunday, I will not be surprised. But this weird kind of fear, for lack of a better term, from fans when it comes to the Bengals, like, for me personally, like, I don't know, I'm over it. And that's no disrespect to them as an opponent, like, for what they can do. That's not it at all. But that was a game that, like I said, that was almost 4 years ago. So to me, that is like way in the past. And let's see what happens on Sunday. I think this is going to be a really fun game. And hopefully for everybody heading out to Highmark Stadium, it will be as well. So listen, wrapping things up, before we kind of go through just the recap real quick, do me a favor, make sure you comment, like, and subscribe so you get the walkthrough each and every week, but all the great shows that we have here at the Overreaction Sports Network. with Joe Miller, John Fina, Jerry Ostrowski, Zig Fracassi, Dan Freddy. We got you covered each and every week, and we appreciate you guys tuning in, whether it's here on the YouTube side, wherever you get your podcasts. We are happy to be with you all the time. And, when you get a chance, make sure you hit us up in the comments. That helps more and more people find the show, find us each and every week. Hit me with a Go Bills. Be sure to hit you back when it comes with that. And like I said, always appreciate you guys tuning in. So when we talk about this recap, let's see what can happen with the defensive line without Joey Bosa, AJ Epinesa, and Greg Rousseau. Time for those two guys to step up. Dalton Kincaid, big question mark there. Will he be able to play? If he does, it could be a good game for him as the Cincinnati Bengals struggle all season long against opposing tight ends. Josh versus Joe Burrow, right? Top quarterbacks kind of in that sort of a duel. Josh always seems to step up when he is in a matchup against some of the top quarterbacks in the league. We've seen it earlier this season against Baker Mayfield and Patrick Mahomes and Lamar Jackson. Let's see if we can add Joe Burrow to the list. And again, I'm over the whole hangover from 2022. It was almost 4 years ago. Like, I'm over it. Let's kind of get over that hump, and let's see a big victory for the Buffalo Bills on Sunday. So I'm going to get out of here for now. Thank you guys for tuning in each and every week. Go Bills, and we'll see you next week.